60 million Americans woke up this morning under some form of heat alert. Not a warning for tomorrow, not a forecast for next week. Right now, today, 60 million people are living under official government notices telling them that stepping outside carries real risk to their health. And heat is only one part of what is unfolding across this country at this exact moment. While tens of millions bake under record-breaking temperatures, a separate and violent severe thunderstorm system is loading up over T112 Central Plains, with winds capable of hitting 75 miles per hour. And in the desert southwest, a wall of dust 3,000 feet high is threatening to swallow entire interstate highways in Arizona tonight. 3 emergencies, happening at the same time, across the same country. And most people watching the news this morning have no idea how connected all 3 of these actually are. Let's start with the number that should stop you in your tracks. Oklahoma City hit 109.4 degrees this week. That did not just break the previous record for the date, it shattered a record that had stood since 1918. Think about everything that record survived. 2 world wars. The Dust Bowl, the driest and most punishing agricultural disaster in American history. The brutal summer of 1980, when heat killed over 1,000 people nationwide. 108 years of recorded weather history in Oklahoma City, and none of it came close to what happened this week. One single August afternoon erased more than a century of data. And Oklahoma is not isolated in this. Death Valley touched 118 degrees. Las Vegas sat at 110. These are not neighboring anomalies. This is one continuous dome of high pressure sitting over a huge stretch of the country, and it is the 3rd time this exact pattern is formed over the central and southern United States this summer alone. Third heat dome. Meteorologists will tell you that 1 heat dome in a summer is normal. 2 starts to raise eyebrows. 3, with weeks of summer still remaining, is the kind of pattern that ends up in climate reports years from now as a turning point people point back to. So let's go through this region by region because the specifics matter. Numbers like extreme heat warning get repeated so often on the news that people stop hearing them. I want you to actually understand what these words mean where you live. Start in the desert southwest, because this is where the danger is most extreme and most immediate. The National Weather Service has an extreme heat warning stretching across southwest Arizona and southeast California. An extreme heat warning is not just it's hot outside. It is the highest level of heat alert the Weather Service issues, and it means the heat itself is expected to be dangerous or deadly for anyone exposed to it without shelter, water, and rest. The lower Colorado River Valley and Death Valley are expected to hit 115 to 118 degrees this afternoon. At that temperature, an adult without water and shade and direct sun can experience life-threatening heat illness in under an hour. That is not an exaggeration for effect. That is the plain operating reality of triple-digit desert heat. Yuma and El Centro are looking at 106 to 114 degrees. Las Vegas sits at 107 to 110, and that warning runs all the way through Friday evening, meaning this is not a one-day event for southern Nevada. It is a multi-day siege. Here's the part of this heat event that gets the least attention, but might be the most dangerous piece of the entire story: overnight lows. In Phoenix, and are forecast to stay near 90 degrees even after the sun goes down. Daytime highs in central Phoenix and the East Valley, covering Scottsdale, Tempe, Chandler, Gilbert, Mesa, and Glendale, are expected to reach 108 to 111 degrees. Why does the overnight number matter so much? Because your body needs the night to recover. During a normal hot day, your heart works harder, your kidneys strain to keep up with fluid loss, and your core temperature climbs. Overnight, temperatures are supposed to drop enough that your body can cool back down and repair the stress of the day. When the low overnight temperature is still near 90 degrees, that recovery window closes. Day after day of no recovery is what turns a hot week into a deadly one, especially for elderly residents, small children, and anyone managing diabetes, heart disease, or kidney conditions. If you are in the Phoenix metro area and you lose power or don't have air conditioning, do not wait it out. Call 211 in Maricopa County right now to find the nearest cooling center where you can get water, air conditioning, and transportation help if you need it. If you or someone you know is planning to hike the Grand Canyon in the next 2 days, please pay close attention to this next part. An extreme heat warning covers areas below 4,000 feet elevation in the canyon through Thursday evening. At Phantom Ranch, deep inside the caney, every single year, temperatures are expected between 107 and 111 degrees. The National Weather Service office in Flagstaff is specifically telling day hikers on Bright Angel Trail not to descend more than 1.5 miles from the rim and to be completely out of the canyon between 10 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon. This is not caution. For caution's sake, People die in that canyon from heat every single year, and the canyon actually traps heat more effectively than the open desert around it. You can feel fine going in and be in serious medical trouble within an hour. Helicopter rescue becomes dangerous or impossible in that kind of heat because the air itself is too thin and too hot for safe flight operations. If you are planning to hike today or tomorrow, please stay up top. Now to something most people outside the Southwest have never experienced firsthand, the haboob. Tonight, the National Weather Service office in Tucson is warning of potential haboob formation, and blowing dust advisories are already active across multiple parts of Arizona. The Gila Bend area, northwest Pinal County, the Tonopah Desert, and Buckeye have a dust advisory from 5 to 10 p.m. Mountain Time. Down in the Tucson M, Etro, Marana, Vail, and Green Valley have their own blowing dust advisory from 3 to 10 p.m. Strong thunderstorm outflow, winds of 45 to 55 miles per hour, can kick up a wall of dust that reaches 3,000 feet high and moves at 30 to 40 miles per hour. Visibility can go from clear to zero in a matter of seconds. If you are driving on Interstate 10, Interstate 19, or any highway in southern Arizona tonight and you see blowing dust ahead, here is exactly what to do. Pull completely off the roadway, not onto the shoulder, all the way off the pavement. Put the car in park, set the emergency brake, turn off every light on the vehicle, including hazard flashers, because a driver behind you who can't see the road may instinctively follow your taillights S-star. Ite into your parked car. Keep your foot off the brake pedal for this same reason. Stay in the vehicle with your seatbelt fastened until visibility returns. Arizona has a simple phrase for this. Pull aside, stay alive. Never attempt to drive through a dust wall. People have died on Arizona interstates doing exactly that, believing they could push through in a few seconds. Moving to Nevada and Southern California. The extreme heat warning for Las Vegas runs through Friday evening at 8 p.m. Pacific time. Lake Havasu City, Needles, Bullhead City, and 29 Palms are all facing 107 to 115 degree heat today. Southern California is not spared either. A heat advisory covers San Bernardino and Riverside counties, the Inland Empire, Fontana, Rancho Cucamonga, Ontario, and San Bernardino City, with temperatures up to 105 degrees through Thursday. Los Angeles and Ventura County have a heat advisory covering the Santa Clarita Valley, the San Fernando Valley, the San Gabriel Mountains Corridor, and the Santa Ynez Range, with highs of 95 to 105 degrees through Thursday. If you live in any of these areas, get outdoor activity done before 9 in the morning and be back inside well before the afternoon heat peaks. Now let's talk about something that is the real story hiding underneath this entire heat event, the power grid. This affects tens of millions of people in states that most Americans wouldn't even associate with the Southwest heat wave. The South W. St. Power Pool is the grid operator serving 17 states and roughly 20 million Americans across the central United States. In late July, the U.S. Department of Energy issued an emergency order under Section 202C of the Federal Power Act, directed specifically at the Southwest Power Pool. That order is still active and has been extended. And what it does is authorize the grid operator to dispatch backup generation and bring idle power plants online that normally sit offline in order to prevent demand from outpacing available supply. Here's why this matters so much. That authorization is the final safeguard before a Level 3 energy emergency alert. And a Level 3 alert is the stage at which rolling blackouts begin. The grid is one step away from that threshold. Record electricity demand from this heat wave, combined with wind generation running below forecasted output and several power plants experiencing unplanned outages, pushed the system to the edge of what it can handle. Utilities like OG&E in Oklahoma are actively asking customers to shift energy use away from peak hours between 2 and 7 p.m. S's. Get your thermostat to 78 degrees during those hours. Run laundry and dishwashers in the morning or after 8 p.m. Use ceiling fans to supplement air conditioning instead of pushing your unit to its limit. These aren't polite suggestions. This is what utilities ask for when they are trying to prevent a blackout during the exact hours when losing power could be fatal for vulnerable residents. The SC states covered by this grid emergency order include Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa, Louisiana, and Texas. If your power goes out during extreme heat, do not wait to see if it comes back. Get to a cooling center immediately. Heat stroke can become fatal within minutes, and a home without air conditioning and triple-digit heat is not a safe place to wait things out. Now to the Southern Plains, where the heat emergency continues without a break. Central and northern Oklahoma, including Oklahoma City, remain under an extreme heat warning. Oklahoma City has already logged 21 days this summer with highs in the triple digits. For context, the all-time record for that city is 63 triple-digit days in a single summer, set in 2011. This summer is trending toward that mark. heat index values, which combine actual air temperature with humidity to estimate what the heat actually feels like on the human body, are expected to reach 110 degrees today across central and northern Oklahoma between 11 in the morning and 8 at night. If you live in Moore, Norman, Edmond, Stillwater, Enid, or Lawton, stay inside during peak hours today. To the east, Tulsa, Fort Smith, Muskogee, McAllister, and Tahlequah are under an extreme heat warning with heat index values up to 113 degrees. Central and eastern Arkansas, including Little Rock, North Little Rock, Conway Joe, Nesbro, and Pine Bluff, are under extreme heat warnings with index values near or above 110 degrees from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. today. A heat advisory covers parts of southwest Arkansas, northwest Louisiana, southeast Oklahoma, and east Texas through Thursday evening. North Texas is not getting a break either. The entire Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex is under an extreme heat warning, with actual air temperatures, not the heat index, but the real thermometer reading, expected to hit 108 degrees this afternoon. That covers Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlen, Geteon, Plano, Frisco, McKinney, Denton, and Louisville, one of the most densely populated regions in the entire country. If you're driving on I-35, I-20, or I-30 today, keep water in your car at all times. A simple breakdown on a Texas highway in 108-degree heat can become a genuine medical emergency within 30 minutes. It's worth remembering that extreme heat is already the deadliest weather category in the United States, killing more people on average each year than hurricanes and tornadoes combined. That statistic rarely gets the same attention as a hurricane making landfall, but the death toll tells a different story. Down in the Gulf South, southern Louisiana, including New Orleans and Baton Rouge, and southern Mississippi, are under heat advisories with index values up to 110 degrees through 8 p.m. tonight. Florida is dealing with dangerous heat from the Panhandle to the Keys. Northeast and north central Florida have a heat advisory with index values up to 112. Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Sarasota, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, and Lakeland are all under advisory with values up to 112 as well. Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, Naples, and the entire Keys corridor have a heat advisory from ELA, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., with index values of 105 to 112. Orlando, Daytona Beach, and Vero Beach are looking at 108 to 112. The Carolinas and Georgia coast are included too, with Savannah, Charleston, Wilmington, Myrtle Beach, and the Outer Banks all facing heat index values of 109 to 111. This heat dome stretches from the desert southwest to the Atlantic coast. And here is something that genuinely surprises most people when they learn it. Extreme heat is not classified as a federal disaster under the Stafford Act, the law that governs how the federal government responds to natural disasters. Heat simply isn't on that list. That means governors cannot request the same kind of federal disaster relief for a heat wave that they can for a hurricane, a flood, or a tornado. The response falls almost entirely to cities and counties, often funded out of local budgets, summer after summer, with no dedicated federal disaster framework behind it. This is happening during the third heat dome of the year. 60 million people are under heat alerts today, a number that reached 80 million during the July heat dome. The CDC reported that in 2024 alone, nearly 2,400 Americans died from heat-related causes, the second highest annual total since the agency began tracking this data. Analysis of this summer's July heat domes has already confirmed at least 70 heat-related deaths, and experts widely consider that number a significant undercount, because heat deaths are notoriously slow and inconsistent to investigate and report compared to deaths from storms or floods. Now let's shift to what might be the most dynamically dangerous story of the day, the severe thunderstorm threat building over the Central Plains tonight. The Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma has issued a slight risk, level 2 out of 5, for severe storms tonight. That word slight can be misleading. It does not mean the setup is minor. It means the coverage of severe storms is expected to be more isolated than widespread, but where storms do form, they can be intense. Here's what's fueling this. A shortwave trough, a ripple of energy moving through the upper atmosphere, is currently sitting over western Kansas and moving east. At the surface, an extremely moist air mass has settled in from the mid-Mississippi Valley westward into the central PO. Lanes, surface dew points, which measure how much moisture is in the air near the ground, are sitting at 68 to 72 degrees across the region. Dew points in the low 70s are tropical level humidity, the kind you'd expect near the Gulf Coast or a rainforest not typically parked over Kansas and Missouri. The number that has meteorologists genuinely on alert today is CAPE, convective available potential energy, essentially the fuel supply available for thunderstorms to draw on. The Storm Prediction Center's outlook cites CAPE values of 1,500 to 2,500 joules per kilogram along the corridor from Salina to Kansas City. For comparison, an ordinary strong summer thunderstorm typically operates with CAPE values in the range of 500 to 1500. At 2,500 joules per kilogram, you're looking at an atmosphere capable of producing storms that intensify very quickly and become dangerous with little warning. There's also a well-defined outflow boundary sitting across central Kansas, acting as a focal point for new storm development. And isolated severe storms are already forming near the boundary as of this evening. The primary threat corridor runs from northeast Kansas down into west central Missouri, putting the entire Kansas City metro, on both the Kansas and Missouri sides, directly in the path of concern tonight. Topeka, Lawrence, Ottawa, and communities along the I-70 corridor in eastern Kansas need to stay weather aware this evening. In Missouri, Jefferson City, Columbia, Sedalia, and the western edge of the St. Louis metro could see impacts as well. A severe thunderstorm watch is currently active until 4 a.m. Central Time Wednesday, covering 14 Kansas, Unties, and 9 Missouri counties, including Jackson County, home to the heart of Kansas City. If you live anywhere in that metro area, make sure your phone's weather alerts are turned on before you go to sleep tonight. There are 3 specific threats to understand from tonight's system. The first, and the one the Storm Prediction Center is most concerned about, is damaging straight-line wind. The outlook specifically warns of gusts above 75 miles per hour along any organized line segment. 75-mile-per-hour winds are strong enough to topple mature trees that have stood for decades, snap power lines, overturn small vehicles, and turn unsecured yard objects into projectiles. The greatest risk comes if individual storm cells merge into what meteorologists call a quasi-linear convective system, a long organized line of storms. When that organization happens, damaging winds can spread across a very large area in a short amount of time. The second threat is large hail. Deep layer wind shear and steep lapse rates in the atmosphere tonight give hailstones time to grow large before they fall. Earlier in the evening, while storm cells are still separate and haven't merged into a line, hail is the primary concern. If you're in the watch area, get vehicles under cover before dark if you can. Hail damage to a car roof and windshield can run into the thousands of dollars from a single storm. The third threat, and arguably the most widespread and insidious danger tonight, is flash flooding. The Weather Prediction Center has issued a slight risk for excessive rainfall across the Missouri Valley. With dew points sitting at 68 to 72 degrees, these storms will probably see very high rainfall rates. Widespread totals of 2 to 3 inches are expected, with locally higher amounts possible in places where storms drain, meaning multiple storm cells follow the same path one after another and dump rain on the same location repeatedly. When lightning happens, 4, 5, or even 6 inches of rain can fall in just a few hours, and flash flooding can become severe with very little warning. Because much of this rain is expected overnight and into Wednesday's morning commute, the timing is especially critical. If you drive I-70, I-435, I-35, or I-470 in the Kansas City area, build in extra time Wednesday morning, since road closures on major interstates are a real possibility. Regional transportation departments operate real-time flood information maps online for exactly this kind of event. This is an active, severe weather day well beyond Kansas and Missouri. Northwest Iowa has discrete supercell-style storm cells maintaining their structure, and as they track southeast into north-central Iowa, isolated large hail and severe gusts are possible. Des Moines, Ames, and the I-35 corridor through central Iowa should watch radar closely this evening. A line of storms has organized across southern Wisconsin near Milwaukee, Kenosha, and Racine, carrying an isolated wind damage threat over the coming hours. Lower Michigan, including Detroit, Flint, Lansing, and Grand Rapids, has a marginal severe weather risk tonight. Chicago sits in the marginal risk zone as well, with storm chances mainly along and south of the metro. Looking ahead to Thursday, the storm threat shifts east and south, and this could turn out to be the most significant day of this entire multi-day event. The Weather Prediction Center has issued a slight risk for excessive rainfall Thursday, and it's an ace across the mid-Mississippi Valley from the Storm Prediction Center. The flash flooding threat increases significantly. Wednesday night into early Thursday morning, particularly from southern Iowa and northern Missouri across northern Illinois, including the Chicago metro, and into southern Wisconsin. Repeated rounds of heavy rain will fall on ground already saturated from Tuesday and Wednesday night storms, and saturated ground can absorb much more before flooding turns rapid and dangerous. Urban flooding is a real concern for Thursday morning in Chicago and Des Moines. If you can work from home Thursday, it's worth considering. On the heat side, Thursday brings no meaningful relief across the southwest, the southern plains, or the deep south. The upper-level ridge of high pressure, essentially acting as a lid trapping heat in place, remains anchored over the 4 core nears region. The extreme heat warning across much of the desert southwest continues through Friday evening. Oklahoma's streak of triple-digit days is expected to continue uninterrupted through at least Sunday, with no meaningful break in sight. By Friday, a cold front begins pushing south, bringing storm chances to the mid-south and mid-Atlantic. But relief in this context is relative. Heat index values in the upper 90s to low 100s are still hot enough to be dangerous for vulnerable populations, and still capable of causing heat illness or death if precautions aren't taken. Don't let the word relief create a false sense of comfort. Looking at the weekend, the upper level high over the Four Corners slowly expands north into the Intermountain West and shifts east toward the high plains. The air is no significant heat break coming across a large swath of the country from the southwest through the south central plains and lower Mississippi Valley. And the multi-day severe storm threat along the slow-moving cold front continues through the end of the week. Here is the safety information that matters most right now. If you're in a severe storm area tonight across Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, or Wisconsin, make sure you have multiple ways to receive warnings before you go to sleep. A weather app with notifications enabled, a NOAA weather radio, and awareness of outdoor sirens in your area. Have at least 2 of these active and ready. If a tornado warning is issued in your area tonight, even though the primary threats today are wind, hail, and flood, go immediately to your lowest interior room. Away from windows, a basement if you have one, or a bathroom or closet on the ground floor if you don't. Don't wait to see how it looks outside. By the time you can see a tornado in the dark, it may already be too late to act. If you're anywhere under a heat warning today, whether that's Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Arizona, or any of the other regions covered, know the difference between heat exhaustion and heat stroke. Heat exhaustion looks like heavy sweating, dizziness, weakness, and nausea. Get inside immediately, drainee. Water and cool down. Heat stroke is a medical emergency and looks very different. Hot, red, dry skin with no sweating, confusion, slurred speech, or loss of consciousness. Call 911 immediately if you see these signs. Do not wait to see if the person improves on their own. Heat stroke can cause permanent organ damage within minutes and can be fatal within an hour if left untreated. Time matters enormously. Check on elderly neighbors today. Call family members who live alone. Find out whether the people around you have working air conditioning. And if they don't, help them get to a cooling center. Extreme heat rarely makes the same kind of headlines a tornado or hurricane does. Here's no dramatic footage, no debris field, no obvious before and after image. But the death toll from heat this summer is already higher than most tornado seasons and higher than most hurricane seasons, and it is still climbing. 60 million. And people under heat alerts, a violent storm system loaded over the Central Plains, and a wall of dust threatening to swallow highways in Arizona tonight. This is a genuine, active, multi-front emergency, and it deserves to be treated like one. Stay safe, stay aware, and take care of the people around you this week.